Decepticons.
Decepticons? And this is what, our third episode?
Yeah. Third episode.
And who are these episodes for? Remind me.
Transform.
Oh, that's what we're talking about, Transformers. But who are we making them for?
Papa, Nanya, Mom, and Baba.
Right. And anyone else
If
who...
it started...
It has.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's okay. Okay. So, we're here to talk about Decepticons. Now, who are the Decepticons? What part do they play?
Metatron.
Oh, yeah, but who is Megatron to the Decepticons? He is the Decepticon leader. Very good.
He
So
leads all Decepticons.
he does lead the Decepticons.
But we don't really see that movie much.
So he leads the Decepticons. Now, what is Megatron?
He is
Besides being a robot.
Decepticon.
Yeah, well, why don't you take him close to the camera so everyone can see him? Here, Daddy can reach him forward. Now, tell me some things about Megatron.
He can do big pews.
Mm-hmm, with his
pew.
big ion cannon. Yeah. What does he turn into?
A tank.
A tank. You may remember from our first episode that it's a tank. And we have two Megatrons, don't we?
Can you put mine in its pink mode?
In its tank mode? Yes.
What?
But I need you to tell me more about Megatron while I do it.
Megatron doesn't really have a sword.
Well, certain versions have a sword, don't they?
But in the colorful one, yes.
Colorful one would be Transformers Animated.
Yeah. Transformers Animated doesn't really have my favorite.
It doesn't have... Yeah, it doesn't have Windblade. She hadn't been introduced yet.
Yeah.
She is introduced until Robots in Disguise in the shows. She made her first appearance in comics. But this Megatron, which is the one from Cyberverse, which is kind of what I started doing on Transformers with, right? He's a pretty good amalgamation of a lot of different Megatron personalities.
But this so awful.
What are you going to show off? Oh, okay. That's fine. And as far as she is known, he is a tank. Now, as you may recall, he was not always a tank. He originally was a handgun. A German handgun. And they made him into a tank, which actually works really well for him. And this actually, as far as the Cyberverse version of him is actually pretty good for being a relatively small toy. He does, Megatron, both versions we have of him, he does suffer a bit from the I'm a robot with my arms and legs up underneath. What else can you say about Megatron?
He doesn't really have a sword in this one.
Yes, he doesn't have a sword. What is with you and swords? You're just all the time about swords. What does he have instead? What does he fight Optimus with more often than his gun? Do you remember? It comes out in a chain, big ball, spiky. Does that sound familiar? It's pink.
I don't remember.
He has a big spiked flail, a morning star. Remember, he goes woof, 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 and then there's a scene where Grimlock bites it.
I don't remember that.
We have to rewatch those episodes. But, yes, Megatron has been the big bad. He's been the big bad in Transformers for a while.
But
However, he is not the biggest bad. A lot of times there are yet bigger bads to be had. Not that we've got figures representation of them, but
like Mega Supreme.
Well, but is Omega Supreme a Decepticon or an Autobot?
Autobot.
He is an Autobot.
But he's a big Autobot.
Do you remember the name of the Decepticon that's gigantic and looks like a dinosaur?
No.
That fights Omega Supreme?
No.
You don't remember?
Hey, Daddy.
Yes.
They needed to be a mantis painted. Fight him.
Well, I'm talking about Triptychon.
Triptychon.
But that's not even the biggest bad in Transformers. Triptychon's a Titan. But
I didn't know he had a Titan. He's a big bad Titan.
The Cybertronians ultimately have villains in the Quintessons, which you remember the Quintessons or Quintessons? Thanks, Cyberverse.
They just look like octopuses.
They do look like octopuses.
Yeah, that robot runs in there.
Robot octopuses. And
yeah.
and what do the Autobots and Decepticons do when they are facing them? Do they fight each other and the Quintessons?
Yeah, they work together.
They work together.
Yeah, Ted. And they also... Sorry, Daddy. Sorry.
I know. They work together. And so there are bigger bads than Megatron, but he is a pretty big bad. There is ultimately a sort of a whole planet of evil, but that's for another time. Well, do you want to talk about the lieutenants of Megatron, at least the ones we have? So most of the Decepticons, even from the early run, were jets. I mean, they kind of broke up. The things that turned into cars were the good guys, and the things that turned into military vehicles or jets were the bad guys. So from that age and even carrying on, the Decepticons are the ones that are all the jets for the most part. So they're led by, and I'm sad to say I don't have a really proper Starscream, but we do have this Starscream, and that is your Starscream, and this one is tiny. I mean, I'll take a deck of cards. It's tiny. And not a great representation. He doesn't have the arm blasters, really called null rays.
I wanted the blaster one.
And as a kid, if you're a Transformers fan, whenever you're got the empty wrapping paper tubes, and you would try to figure out some way to attach them to the outside of your arm so you go around pretending to be one of the Seekers. But we do have a bigger Seeker. And we have the first female Seeker, I believe. And who is that? Who is this? Slipstream. And yes, female. It's not just relegated to the Autobots anymore. Female Decepticon, Slipstream.
She's one of the Seekers.
She is one of the Seekers.
But she has baby.
Yes, she does have the characteristic
arm blasters.
Arm blasters. Thank you, kid. All right, should we transform her for people?
Yeah.
She's got a really neat transformation. Okay, we're going to pull her out. We're going to turn her around. Okay. And then we're going to flip all of that in. We're going to push her two legs together. Push the feet apart. Pull the nose cone out from her back. And push these little bits on the back of her legs up to form the tail fins. And now she's a jet.
Yeah.
And you want to show off her special feature?
Yeah.
Okay, show off her special feature to the camera.
Like her new power.
Yeah. Yep.
Let me do it.
I'm going to let you do it. Yeah! Look at that good spin. It doesn't really sync up with anything in the show. She's another Cyberverse version. Okay, so we're speaking of jets. We should probably show off the Micromasters. So sure. Okay. You want to show them to the camera? They're tiny. I mean, they're little. They're little tiny people. They're little tiny ones. And these do date even back from my era. There were Micromasters back then. And but the wonderful thing about these, and the reason I bought a couple of packs of them, that's all right, I'll fix, is that they are really easy to transform, and I'm amazed. The big ones didn't have knees in my era. Little ones Little ones have knees and proper moving arms and full transformations. I'm just amazed.
Daddy,
Yeah, well, in a moment. Can you show one of these guys up to the camera and we'll talk about who they are?
Mm-hmm.
So pick up that one. Do you remember what the black one's name is?
No.
Ah, that's okay. But these haven't shown up in any show. That one's name is Visper.
Whisper.
With a V. And then this one, you want to show this one to it? Then you gotta sit in your chair. Would you show it to the camera? Sit in your chair, please. Show the purple one to the camera, and then we'll sit in your chair, please.
What?
Okay.
Can you steal me a bit?
And then that's Storm Cloud.
Can you steal me a bit?
Here, stand up. All right. There.
A bit better.
Okay. She's asked me to transform Starscream, so I'm going to do that real quick. Though he's so simple, kid, I bet you could do it. He's very similar to the Windblade that you can do.
But I just tried to do that.
That's okay.
Oh, Spark!
Yeah, Daddy sculpted an Allspark, though Daddy's not entirely happy with it. I've lost a lot of my touch on that one. I don't have the touch, and no one watching this is going to get that reference. All right, Starscream in jet mode. Okay, so let's talk about one of the other lieutenants. Now, there's one we don't have, which is Soundwave, who traditionally turned into a big stereo system, like a big tape deck, and he still has that functionality where he would open his chest and tapes would flap that would turn into small transformers, usually animals, with except for Rubble and Frenzy.
Like Laserbeak?
Like Laserbeak, who's a bird, kind of a vulture-esque bird, wouldn't you say? But you also have a bat or a little dog thing in Ravage. Don't have him. Still debating which one to get of him. But we do have the other lieutenant, the other main lieutenant.
Hey, Daddy,
yes.
Can you get like the purple white told for if we can use some of my table for my cat white thing, and I'll tend some of this is this 20 song.
I think we'll show off McAdam once we have all of them.
Okay, we just need his
There's a
laser.
character named McAdam, and he had not really had too many canon depictions of him up until very recently in the Cyberverse show. And McAdam owns a bar on Cybertron, which sort of has the rule of no fighting in my bar. So you could actually have Autobots and Decepticons mingling, if you will. They chose to take a certain range of the figures, 8 of them, and instead of just releasing a McAdam figure, they released him in parts. And they released those parts over 8 figures. So, for example, the Megatron figure came with his upper chest. The Bumblebee figure that we showed you last time comes with his lower abdomen. So you end up in this race to try and get all 8 so that you can actually build the entire figure. And you better believe they were smart enough not to just leave out some part you wouldn't care about. Like, they didn't make number 8 just like his axe thing, where you probably wouldn't care about it. No. The axe things include with the shoulders, which are separate from the arms, so you actually, in order to even build anything close to him.
His back.
Yes, there's painting on his back, which is molded to him. Now, and of course, as you might imagine, with the 8 of them, there's one that's rare.
We just needed that.
Well, we're missing 2, and someone's still earning 3 of them. Which is sad, and we're a little out of control, probably.
Yeah, just I can really sleep on my...
Yeah, we're working on you sleeping on your own.
Daddy?
Yes?
I'm not just old enough to do that. Well, I'm a bit older. Will I have you guys? I'll sleep on my own.
Okay, kid.
Dad.
If you say so. Alright, so anyway, they of course made the head the rarest one too, so it's really kind of a stinky thing. Alright, so let's talk about Megatron's other Decepticon lieutenant, which is... Who is this? Shockwave! Shockwave. Now tell me something about Shockwave.
Shockwave has 2 pews on Daddy's. But my Shockwave had one blast.
He had, yeah. All the versions of Shockwave always have one arm replaced by a fairly large blasters type tool type thing.
Let me just throw off those.
Well, this is the what's called the alt mode, or the alternative mode for the Shockwave that I have from the Siege line. And he becomes very much looking like that. But the thing is, Shockwave didn't have a his original alt mode is a ray gun, and they really didn't want to keep doing that for obvious reasons, and so they decided that they would instead try to come up with an alternative option for him, just like they did with Megatron. And so they have tried a few different things. He's been a tank, as he's in Transformers Animated. He's been a spaceship. He's been that a lot, which is actually where he is here. This one he turns into a weird crab tank thing. I've seen all manner of things. I have my own theory as to what they should try that I don't think they have tried yet with him. But typically he is also notable for having how many eyes? What's his notable for? One
eye.
Having one eye and no obvious mouth. He is probably Daddy's favorite Decepticon. He probably wasn't my favorite as a child, but he's probably my favorite now.
He's also my favorite just like Soundwave.
Oh yeah, you're not sure whether you like Soundwave or him better?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
What's Daddy? Wow, wow, wow.
Oh, you're making the sound like Soundwave? Yeah, we'll have to get one sometime soon.
Yeah,
All right.
well, I made that.
Want to show one of the newest ones we just got?
Wow, wow, wow.
Who is this?
Drift.
Or when he's a Decepticon, he's called
Deadlock.
Deadlock. Okay, this is depending on which version you watch or read, he either starts as an Autobot and goes to be Decepticon, or starts as Decepticon and goes to be Autobot. He almost never ends where he starts. Drift/Deadlock. This in the version of Cyberverse, he actually kind of goes back and forth a bit. He's a traitor in one of the early episodes and defects to the Autobots from the Decepticons, but that may have been just a longing, because in an important episode at the beginning of the last season, he betrays the Autobots and attacks Hot Rod, and they end up in quite a fight. And he's known for carrying swords, and he usually has a very spiky head. He's meant to be sort of heavily inspired by parts of Japanese culture with sort of samurai swords and the like. Hi.
Hi.
So, but this one comes with the ability where his swords are kind of secreted inside of his arms, and then at the right moments they can pop out and surprise unwitting Autobots. Okay, so
those Decepticons he's done to fight.
Right, and someone really wanted Deadlock/Drift.
Yeah.
She talked about him a lot. So
Hey, Daddy,
yes,
you forgot to give me my alt armor.
I did not forget. We'll get around to him.
No, I meant my different alt
I know. I haven't forgotten. All right, we got two more to talk about, and then we're done. So, one more, and then we'll talk about your favorite little guy down here. So you can hold on to him for right now. But one more before that.
Scraplet.
We're going to talk about Scraplet in a moment. Okay, so first off, the Insecticons. What's this guy's name?
Shrapnel.
Scrapnel or Shrapnel, depending on which version you're watching. And there's a couple other names for them, too. Insecticons look like... They're Decepticons who look like insects. And they usually came in one of three versions. This is this version that it's based on some kind of beetle. Usually one based on a grasshopper locust, and one based on another kind of like bombardier beetle. These were much more traditionally the villains that I connected to as a child. I like the Insecticons quite a bit. They're rather neat. They come in large numbers. And they make their appearance over and over and over again, because usually they're meant to be found kind of in hordes of thousands or whatever. And there's a whole lot of differences in the continuities as to where exactly they come from. But typically they got some kind of metal dissolving power and some other kind of ability. I just think they're rather neat. Very traditional photo of the Dinobots. All right. So speaking of things that come in their thousands, what is that?
Scraplet.
It's a scraplet. What's a scraplet?
It's a special animal which has energy on it and hold.
Well, it can hold energon, but it's a special kind of animal. Now, you have to remind people what is energon. We haven't talked about energon very much.
Not things that power them.
Right. It's the limited resource in the world of Transformers, almost universally. Energon is a limited resource. It's what they use to power themselves. Sometimes it's what they use to power themselves and make more of themselves, depending on the continuity.
Right, scraplet.
But the scraplets, depending on whether you look at the most recent ones, like those feed on energon. So if they attack, you can find them because all the Cybertronians are just standing around lifeless, and they were overwhelmed by these things. Now, in the Cyberverse, which is what this one's based on, this scraplet was created by Starscream when he's got control of the Allspark, and he intends them to be his sort of little army to go take things over. And it almost works. Shockwave and Wheeljack, the Autobot scientist, both invent machines that can actually be attached to the back of scraplets and take control of them, which kind of renders them useless as a weapon of war. But they are still nasty. In earlier versions, like in comics, they ate metals. They were still very much a menace to Cybertronians because they'll leave humans alone, but they'll just eat their way through a Cybertronian. They've always been depicted as little tiny, very animalistic little mechanoids. And we've seen them a couple different times. And someone really loves her little version of the scraplet. She loves the episodes on scraplet, so she has a scraplet. Is there anything else about the Decepticons we want to say?
Yeah.
What would you like to say about the Decepticons?
This one doesn't really have a sword that much.
Oh, the scraplets don't have swords? Do the scraplets have any weapons?
Doubts, like Bambi?
No, weapons. Do the scraplets have any weapons?
They can...
Chomp. That's pretty much it, isn't it?
They can sort out energon.
Well, they kind of... they spit up energon. After they've eaten a lot. Right? Anything else? Okay. So I have just one more thing to show, and it's something I should have shown about the Micromasters when we were covering them.
What, Daddy?
Don't you remember what's special about these guys?
No.
Okay, I gotta...
Grab it!
Okay. Here.
Thanks, Daddy.
You're welcome. Alright, so a lot of these Micromasters, especially with the Siege line, the Siege line being the more sophisticated current toy line, can combine, and they form some manner of weapon. So there's sort of a very simple sword thing made by shoving the ends of the two jets together, and then they make what looks like kind of like a weapon of some kind, I guess.
Like the sword for Shockwave.
Yeah.
Oh, my Shockwave.
Or your Shockwave, he had in his hand the other day. All right. Well, I think that just about covers it for the Decepticons.
Mm-hmm. This one, so
want to show the scraplet some more? Yeah, you do like that scraplet.
yeah, I really love Scraplet.
We've talked about next episode being just sort of we're talking and showing off maybe new figures, but also talk about some of the major plot lines and talking about what the stories look like. Yes.
After dinner, can you just if there's a really good sound wave for me to buy for the next episode?
Well, I'd love to, kid. We have to make sure we aren't going too crazy. Okay? And Daddy's been shopping sound waves. It's a key thing. All right. Well, thank you. Let's say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.